Entitled Mum in an Amusement Park. Stumbled upon a post in this subreddit that made me remember my encounter with an entitled mum a few years ago. The only time aforementioned cars were available was festival time, once a year, and there were tons of people and kids. I don't know how it's called in English, but I was in an amusement park on those little bumper cars things that are connected to electrical grids with antenna. Once the round ends, you continue, if you have tokens to insert, otherwise you get out and someone else takes your car. This between rounds is very short, so you have to move fast in order to get to the car. So I was about 12 or 13 years old, and I was driving my car at the end of the round. I was still sitting in my car, and an older lady came to me with her son, who was younger than me, and started yelling at me to get out and give her kid the car. I was shocked, but I told her no, I still have tokens left. She was even more furious, and with the same tone told me, "You've had enough rounds, my kid hasn't had any. Get out." And I just told her, "I don't care, I'm not moving. I caught this car fair." And she just stormed off, probably to yell at some other poor kid. Using the bathroom equals free entry. I'm posting this during a lunch break. We're a children's science lab and oftentimes get parents assuming that it's free entry or that we're a daycare. That's no problem, we always explain. Today a family came up, mum, dad, small son, and asked about dropping the kid off while they shopped. My colleague, I'll call him Jane, was working the customer greeting table and informed them that their kid can't enter without a parent. After a short discussion, it looked like the mum agreed to stay. Now I'm watching this all from the experiment counter. As the mum walks her kid in, gets stopped by Jane again. She hasn't paid, which Jane explains we're a non-profit, all the money goes to upkeep. The mum got very, very upset, on and on about how non-profits can't ask for money, that her son was too young to have to be paid for. We charge from ages 2 and up. Eventually, calling it in, it seemed. She asked if at least her son could use the bathroom, and Jane beat down. Looked like she let them do that. 15 minutes or so go by, and Jane asks me to go make sure everything's okay. Surprise, surprise, they've started utilising the lab. I got it our MOD, and she explained that she was only let in to let her son use the bathroom. The mum declared that her son was having fun with new friends, and they just can't ask her to leave. MOD offered to just let the mum pay, to which she responded along the lines of, "I'm already in, why should I have to pay if I'm already here?" My lunch break was about to begin, so I left right then. I can still hear her arguing. A delightful time at our local water park. Before a diagnosis, I used to go to this indoor water park called Olympia. It was always packed, but I loved it there. I was queuing for the fastest water slide. Now they have a system where someone goes down, waits for the light to go green, and then they go down. The cast: EM, Amphibious Land Whale, EK 1 and 2, damn cretins, me. So I go down this slide and hear shouting, "Entitled mother, he will be done by now." I then hear her coming down, and I am terrified. I arrived at the bottom and she basically crushed me. They sent me to the medical room there for 10 minutes. I then head to this one part of the wave machine, which was packed. I was struggling to get out when I feel EK1 on my back. EK1, "Mummy said you deserve this." Kid, what the fuck? I never did jack shit, you wanker. The lifeguard notices what's going on and chucks her open for me, which you should know gets pulled by the cretins. Eventually I get hold of it and get pulled out, but not without nearly having my trunks ripped in half by those entitled kids. I got in the medical room again, and this time I had to give the guard my details. Needless to say, the entitled queef babies got sent home. I encountered them in the change rooms, and the entitled mother started screaming at me. Entitled kid started kicking me, but entitled kid 2 just stood there looking pretty. I had enough. I was furious enough as it was because the guards thought I wasn't well enough for the pool anymore. But enough was enough. I searched my bag for any kind of stuff that would be sore in the eye. I found some shampoo. I poured it into my hand and slapped it in EK's eye. And he hid in my changing room until the guards kindly escorted them out. I had to get told why that was dangerous, and I understand, but enough was enough. Entitled lady charges for everything she does. Right, so a long time ago, a friend of my mum's is the old lady who used to babysit me and my sisters when we were kids. Even though all 3 of us have grown up since then, she still sends us little gifts and cards. Because I don't feel like typing EM throughout the whole thing, I use Karen, even though this isn't her actual name. Right, so my family doesn't own a car, so my mum relies on her friends to drive her around. Her primary source of transport is this other family friend who is actually an OK guy. On the rare moments that OK guy is unavailable, she has to resort to Karen, which is not an option that she usually prefers. The reason for this is because Karen charges her money to do any favour. Want a ride to the hospital? I'll do it if you give me $10 for the ride there and another $10 for the ride home at the end of the day. I expect $20. No joke, that's literally what she did today. What's worse is that she more than triples it if she doesn't get paid. My mother once ended up owing her over $100 of undeserved cash. Karen acts all nice and has the guise of a friendly old lady, but every time she invites me or my mum to an event, like a restaurant or a gathering or something, she wants us to pay for ourselves. I can understand wanting someone to pay for their own food admission and stuff, but doing it every time you invite someone to something? Usually if you invite a guest to an event, it's polite to pay for them. That's literally the point of inviting them. My mother has lost significant amounts of money to Karen and don't think, well, she doesn't have to pay. Every time she doesn't pay, Karen keeps calling her and complaining. She won't let it go. My experience at my hobby. Bit of a backstory, I have swimming as a hobby, so I'm 3 days a week at the swimming hall. The story. So you know those ropes between lines? So me and one of my friends there, with 7 guys on the same line, we were hanging from the rope, not on top of the rope. That's allowed at the hall, so not breaking any rules. Now the good part, so there was this mother, equals entitled mother, and a quiet kid, equals QK. Kid was quiet the whole time, so they had a full line for them to swim on, so they had a lot of space. As me and my friend were hanging from the rope, entitled mother swims to us and literally screams, "Hey, don't touch that rope," and tries to push my friend. As she tried to push my friend says, "Hey, it's allowed to hang from it and don't touch me." Entitled mother screams even louder, "Don't touch that fucking rope. Why don't you go to the other end of the line?" Please note our coach is listening to this, horrified, as she's trying to tell us what we should do next, so we couldn't go to the other end 25 metres, as we would not hear her. This is not crazy ending to this, but entitled mother stopped screaming only after 2 minutes, as our coach loudly said, "Hey, stop harassing them, they didn't break any rules, and if they did, you wouldn't have any power over them." Entitled mum harasses skate rental employee. The story started off when me and a few others went to our local skating rink, but when we didn't know what was that the Karens were out today. So we're hanging out and I'm about to go rent some rollerblades when I overhear someone yelling. I didn't pay attention to it at first, but it started becoming louder. As I went to the rental booth, entitled parent was standing in front of me and screaming at the employee to give her back her child's shoes. But poor employee told her she had to return the skates first. She went on a whole rant about how she shouldn't have to return the skates before she gets the shoes back. PE gets so fed up that he calls security to escort her out. You would think that's the end, but no. Once he called security, she just walked back into the rental booth and took the shoes back without returning the skates. I just stood there watching it all in amazement that people like this actually exist. Someone should do something about this. I was at the gas station pumping gas, and at the pump on the other side was a Karen. Sitting in the front seat of her car was a kid of about 14 or 15 playing on his phone. An older woman walked up pulling a wagon full of cans and bottles and started going through the trash to find more. Now we have a high homeless panhandler population here, and I was mentally congratulating the older woman for earning money through work, not begging. Karen started huffing and puffing. "This is unacceptable. My baby should not have to be exposed to this. Someone should do something about this." I looked at her soon, who had not even looked up from his phone, and said, "I agree wholeheartedly. We should definitely do something." Now I happen to have in my trunk a full bag of cans and bottles as I was on my way to the recycling centre. I pulled out the bag and gave it to the older lady, who thanked me profusely. As I went back to my pump, I smiled wildly at Karen and thanked her for her suggestion. She finished pumping, slammed her door and peeled out of the station. Entitled parents bring their 5 or 6-year-old daughter to see the Joker. Yes, you saw that correctly. They took their 5 or 6-year-old daughter to see a rated R movie with blood and violence. But ignoring that for now, let's just get this story over with. I walk into the theatre with my boyfriend and immediately I can hear this kid being as loud as physically possible. Okay, whatever. As long as she isn't making noise during the movie, I don't give a shit. Movie starts, all is fine for about 2 minutes, until this kid is talking, loudly. Everybody ignored it for a while, decided to just try and focus on the movie, and it worked, for a little bit at least. I look over, about an hour into the movie, and the goddamn kid scared the shit out of me. She's standing there, right beside me, waving her finger in my face and making noise. What the fuck? Who lets their kid wander around in a theatre? Kid's parents refused to get her, but I eventually was left alone again, as her dad begrudgingly got up and yelled at her to come back. Once again, this kid is being as loud as can be. Finally, someone has enough. You can hear a royally pissed off guy sitting somewhere behind us shout, "Seriously? This whole fucking movie? Get that kid out of here." They didn't leave, refused to actually, but I guess they realised that nobody in that theatre was on their side, and they made their daughter shut the hell up. I know I should have said something, but I didn't want to be that asshole who disturbs the movie, especially considering I wanted to watch it. Funnily enough, I saw them out in the parking lot afterwards, and they were talking on the phone and completely ignoring the kid. I honestly feel bad for her, having to be raised by such airhead parents.